Coaching a basketball game can be an exhilarating yet challenging experience, especially for those new to the role. As a coach, you're not only responsible for strategizing and making decisions, but you're also tasked with managing player dynamics, maintaining composure, and effectively communicating. At the highest levels, great coaches are adaptable and can quickly adjust strategies and tactics based on the flow of the game. They are effective game managers, utilizing timeouts, dictating tempo, and creating mismatches to optimize their team's probability of success. They have a deep understanding of the game and can anticipate opponents' moves to enable them to make quicker strategic decisions that give their team an advantage. These things take time to develop, and quite frankly are ongoing, as there is always something new to learn as the game evolves and coaches are put in new situations. While possessing tactical acumen is very important, it means much less without possessing strong leadership qualities. In this lesson, we'll cover what is important for you to know in order to be ready for game day. For starters, you'll need to try and remain calm and composed for the entirety of the game. You'll experience moments of intense excitement and pride, as well as moments of frustration or disappointment when things don't go as planned. Managing your emotions and maintaining a positive attitude is so essential to keeping your team motivated and focused, regardless of the score or situation. You'll need to do your best to understand the emotions of your players to help manage both individual and team dynamics during intense moments. Effectively communicating with players is critical. Instructions you give need to be clear so that your players understand what they're trying to achieve and where they need to be to execute. It's important to give players reminders, as you shouldn't assume players see what you see from the sidelines. Try your best to utilize your timeouts to provide feedback and instructions, as you'll be up against a time constraint. It's important you exercise positive reinforcement and offer praise and encouragement. You'll particularly want to praise effort and acknowledge players trying concepts that were learned in practice. Lastly, it is your job to uphold the core values you outlined for your team, which should include sportsmanship. This means displaying respect for referees and opponents at all times. Try and refrain from nagging to officials regarding missed calls. Expect that to happen in youth sports. It's unlikely that the referee has money on your game, so just relax. Instead, focus on your players' understanding of the calls that are being made and the rules that exist. If you're noticing inconsistencies in rule application or in the understanding of the rules, then that should require a conversation that can take place tactfully, such as on a dead ball or between quarters. During competitive play, things can get chippy between players on opposing teams. Take swift action to bring your players under control before things potentially go awry. Implement a process for how players conduct themselves after the game. Regardless if they win or lose, it should be the same process. You want to encourage them to hold off on celebrating until the team is in private, to refrain from gloating in front of the losers. If the game resulted in a loss, you'll need to encourage your players to hold up their head high. At the end, they should be in a position to shake other team's hand or give high fives and express good game all the same. You need to explain the process of the tip-off and positioning of where players should be. There are even plays that have a high probability of ending in a made basket from the tip, particularly if you have a taller player that consistently wins the tip-off. This is something you must go over in practice leading up to your first game. Tracking stats, either through an assistant coach or a volunteer parent, can be useful to collect. It's up to you if you want to share them with a broader audience, but it's important to have the data to support your assertions, and equally important to disprove them. For example, it could feel like your team is being out-rebounded, but in actuality, your team has more rebounds. Numbers don't lie, so collecting this information can help drive what points you want to emphasize and what you want to work on in subsequent practices. You should set behavioral expectations for your players to remain engaged. It's easy for young kids, especially, to stare off into space where they're not in the game. It's good to ask them game-related questions to keep them thinking and learning. When players are subbed out, you can consider making sure they high-five you and all their teammates. Teammates on the bench can stand up and clap for their teammates who come out of the game. Strategically, just try your best to do what makes sense. For example, if a team is running a zone defense, the man-to-man offense you put in and spend all that time reviewing in practice is likely not going to be effective. Over time, you'll learn how to dictate tempo, control the game, and deploy effective counters to neutralize opponents. All the points we covered in this lesson can be done right now and are important to help with your players' development. Remember, the game is the reward for all the hard work that players have put in. Basketball is a game, so it should be fun. You can foster an environment that leaves them wanting more, contributing a significant impact to their lives for years to come.